Right, Brambro back with some Grand Tactician Civil War CSA campaign. So in our last episode, we had a battle right outside Baltimore as Lee is advancing in Maryland at the start of the 1862 campaigning season. It's early April, winter has dissipated, and so we moved on Baltimore. Patterson here is still in the retreating phase, and as soon as that is complete, the Army of Northern Virginia will move and capture Baltimore. The West Virginia militia, under the command of Winfield Scott, was technically involved in that battle as a reinforcing force, and we did get a message that he entered the field but never actually saw his units. And he's far. I don't know if he's going to do any retreating. I don't think he needs to. So that is going on. What policy are we working on? I think we're still working on impressment, which is just about to finish up. After that, I had just about talked myself into taking Diplomacy 2, only for no other reason than just opening up these infield musketoons, which are a cavalry weapon, and I've been having problems freeing up decent cavalry weapons, which usually the good cav weapons are shorter range but quick firing, and so they're good for kind of short duration shock combat, not an extended firefight. These infield musketoons are kind of the opposite of that, in that they are a slow firing weapon. That's what I read in the manual. I've never actually used these because I've never taken Diplomacy 2 in a campaign before. But these weapons apparently are slow firing, muzzle loading weapons, however, have a long range. Longer than standard infantry rifle muskets. So I assume musketoon means some type of smoothbore weapon. How a musketoon gets 450 yards range, I don't know, but that would kind of be a little bit. Anyway, however, just off camera, I was looking through and seeing what we had in the armory, and for some reason, the floodgates just kind of opened up, and I found myself sitting on quite a few Sharps and Maynard carbines, and a few other repeating arms. Or not repeating, but fast firing, breech loading, or repeating arms. I don't think I actually had any true repeaters yet. So that was a pleasant surprise, and I've now got all the cav and all the forces with either Sharps or Maynards. I think there may be one or two Merrills here and there. So that is a good development, and I was able actually to go ahead and recruit a couple of more cavalry brigades down in Montgomery at HQ that we can send out to wherever I decide need them. And they've got Sharps as well. Also picked up a few artillery pieces, so the artillery divisions in some of our corps have gotten a little bit of an upgrade. So those are welcome developments. I was a little surprised to see the Sharps. And not only did I have some Sharps carbines for the cav, I also had some Sharps rifles for the infantry, which I completely did not expect. The manual states that Sharps rifles are specifically a United States weapon, not available to the Confederacy. most of the weapons in the manual, it says both sides, once you open up Industrialization 1. But the Sharps rifles are supposed to be USA only, so I did not expect to see those. I can only assume that maybe we've captured those over the course of all the battles we've fought. So that's pretty cool. And I think I had about 3 brigades worth. Which leads me to... Y'all have seen in previous episodes, and I can't open those up yet because, well, we can do it this way. Y'all saw in previous episodes how I had color-coded a few brigades in one of the corps with red coats for having fast-firing weapons, so that they just stand out a little bit better on the battlefield for me that way. And so I have kind of extended that idea a little bit, and what I'm also doing now is infantry brigades that have a longer than usual range, meaning weapons with more than 400 yards. 400 yards is the standard for the Springfield, the Enfield, and the Lorenz rifle muskets. So any weapons with a longer range than that, I've gone with green coats for those dudes. So I know that is a brigade which can fire farther. And so so now the red and the green coated guys are kind of the specialist. They've got something more than just the standard infantry that has 400-yard weapons. They either fire faster or they're longer ranged. Green for long range, red for faster rate of fire. And since it's the Army of Missouri that has been doing most of the fighting, and I expect is going to do some more, they've got a little bit of both. The 3 Brigade Division remains, I think these are all infield guys. So these have standard arms, but these 2 Brigade divisions, Pierce's division, I gave them Fayettevilles, and Waitman still has his Mississippi rifles. So these are green coats. And then Clark's division, I gave them Sharps rifles, so they're red coats. So kind of my idea is, kind of in the center, holding the line, are the standard infantry, and then on either flank there's a 2 brigade force that can deliver firepower from the flanks a little bit better, either through rate of fire or just because of longer range. I did not go back and reorganize the corps in the Army of Northern Virginia. We're kind of toward the end of the campaign. It's becoming pretty clear. So anyway, I've done that. Now, and then one final thing. It's been going on for several episodes now. We've had all the success in Missouri, and we've captured St. Louis, we've won every battle, and the darn place is not seceding. And the light bulb just today finally clicked on for me on why that has been the case. And let me zoom out a little bit. This is why that's the case. Half the darn state is still Union controlled. Now, that directly isn't why they won't secede, but it's a big, big contributor, because what's been happening is, there's this Army of Mississippi, or Army of the Mississippi, somewhere over here, and every time they have lost a battle and have to retreat, they've had plenty of infrastructure points, like the town of Mexico, or Chillicothe, or Bloomington, or Georgetown. So he gets defeated in retreats. But then as soon as he gets to that point, he's not retreating anymore, and his condition is down, his supply is down, his morale is down, but he's still a viable force within the borders of the state. It has not been the Army of Kentucky that has been preventing us from getting a Missouri secession, because every time they retreat to someplace in Illinois. So what I need to do is get to a state where there is not a non-retreating army within the borders of Missouri. Now, if the Army of the Mississippi had been the only Union force inside the state and was forced to retreat, that probably would have done it. But because he was retreating, while the Army of the West also remained inside the borders of the state, they've always had one non-retreating army within the borders. I think that's why Missouri hasn't flipped. So, my plan now is, and we've already talked about bringing Johnston over here to defeat the Army of the West, which needs to happen, but then we would have the same problem. The Army of the West might even retreat out of the state. But if the Army of the Mississippi is over here not retreating, still the same problem. So what I need to do is I need to gobble up the infrastructure points up here. And to do that, I need to take St. Joseph, which is the other larger city within Missouri. And because the influence of cities does extend across borders, we see that in plenty of other places. I think I need to grab Leavenworth, which probably controls this point, and I probably need to at least temporarily grab Quincy, Illinois. So the plan for Johnston now, once he gets his telegraph built over here, matter of fact, let's tell him to do that. That ought to be within range of Helena, I hope. We'll have to double check that before he moves. So what Johnston needs to do is he needs to come up here, beat the Army of the West, but then he needs to continue and take Leavenworth, St. Joseph, and then cross over and take Quincy. And then once we have all these IIPs blocked off, then we need to defeat the Army of the Mississippi, and it will be forced to retreat out of the state because it doesn't have a place within Missouri to retreat to. Once I realized that, it seemed pretty darn obvious, and I kind of feel a little bit idiotic for not catching on to that sooner. So, that's the plan of Missouri. Continuing on to push in Maryland. And in the center, I am well aware that we've been fighting in the Far East, fighting in the Far West, and have been doing jack diddly squat in the Tennessee-Kentucky theater. Pretty much this whole campaign. I don't think, Hardee's Corps was the original Army of Tennessee. Van Dorn's Corps is new, but I don't think even Hardee's Corps, I don't think they've even fought a battle yet. So, it's April. We got a fort at Cairo now. I think I can afford to kind of leave this area untended for a little while. So it's time to get Johnston's army moving and get them actually contributing to this war. So which I've been trying to prepare for by building a supply depot up here, but the Union Army of the Tennessee chased away our engineer corps, who had to come all the way back around this way to link back up. But they need to move into Kentucky now. So first let's get Hardy back over here closer. Let's tell him to march to Clarksville. And he can use river transport to do that. That should get him there pretty close. And let's tell Van Dorn to move up here closer to the... Let's just tell Van Dorn to go to Bowling Green. Go into Kentucky. It's time. And we'll tell the engineers to head up to Bowling Green and get working on that supply depot, this time with combat forces around. And then we'll get the Army HQ moving over here as well, about halfway between those two spots. And we'll probably have to build supply depots around there. Okay, so we're moving west, we're moving central. Well, we're moving far west, we're moving west, and we're moving east. And Beauregard still building that supply depot at Cumberland, Maryland. And this fort garrison is still rebuilding their fort. Let's get time rolling. Wait a minute. Didn't somebody get defamed? Patton, one of the horse artillery commanders, I think he's in the 2nd Corps, was defamed. So we need to replace him, at least temporarily. I did look it up. This officer was General Patton's grandfather, who was actually an infantry commander. It's not showing the defamed icon here. I have discovered that it doesn't always show up. But if we look at the well, maybe not. We don't have a message on it. I could have sworn I saw the newspaper headline in the last episode. Maybe time has to click over a day for that to happen. Okay, we're showing attrition, but I think that's just because of the recent battle. Yeah, we do kind of need a supply we do need a supply depot. But we can do that while we're capturing Baltimore. We'll put a depot up here. Jackson, go get it. And then we'll move Longstreet over here. And Longstreet should be in range of some IIPs down here. Okay, we got our impressment. Oh, and Baltimore flipped quick. Didn't really have to wait. I guess because there's so many troops nearby and the Union Army left the area. Okay, that just leaves Frederick as the only large city in Maryland. under Union control. So we'll be pushing in on Patterson again pretty soon. How's our little fleet? Okay, so our fleet, and it's just that our scouting squadron is up to green readiness. Fleets come up in readiness pretty quick, really. Let's just have them come over here and see if McDowell's army is still hanging out at Salisbury, Maryland. Let's get a depot building over here. We'll get Jackson to build that. That ought to work. Okay, Union has gone industrialization 2. One thing the Union has not done, I don't remember seeing a newspaper headline indicating that the Union has adopted military 2. Which I think does the exact same thing for the Union that it does for the Confederacy. This is a common policy. So not only does he not have the Army Corps structure thing going on, but he also has a lower recruitment, civil order, and trade warfare subsidy level than we do, even if the AI has all their sliders maxed out, which they probably, I'm guessing the AI may not do that. Which might be one reason why the player tends to do pretty good economically, even if playing as the Confederacy. More France-Mexico stuff, not having any part of that for reasons already talked about. Well, if McDowell is here, our fleet cannot see him. Let's have this fleet come up the bay somewhere. Okay, he's not down here because Drummondtown is still red, as is Ononcock, so he didn't come down this way. Let's go up the bay, up to the mouth of the Susquehanna. See if we catch sight of him anywhere in that neighborhood. And I don't know how far inland fleet vision really goes. If the army isn't right on the shore, it may not see him anyway. Along rivers, there's a lot of infrastructure points. You know, armies kind of tend to sit near the river, close enough to see. Places like Chattanooga, Nashville, and Memphis. This may be just far enough back from the shore. McDowell could be here, and this fleet wouldn't see him. Let's see how far up the Susquehanna we can even go. Let's go up to Harrisburg. That'll irritate some Yankees, seeing a little Confederate scouting force on the river right by the state capital of Pennsylvania. As long as he's there, he can do a little blockading on this river port. There. Take that, Yankees. Okay, I got a supply depot building here. Depot built here. So Beauregard's supply problems have been corrected over at Cumberland. This garrison's almost done with their fort. The only reason I really care that much about that is just to get the Fort Carroll garrison off my field army list. Little OCD there. Fort Stevenson has got attrition problems. Only 80% supply. I guess I should build another little depot down here just to keep all these forts supplied. I wonder if Lee can do that himself. There's no troops with him. I don't know if I've ever tried to build a building with just an army commander. But yeah, it's going up. Lee and his staff over there building warehouses and tents and stuff because he's got nobody else to do it. Let's go see how Johnson should be done with his telegraph by now. Get him back up. I've lost track of where he should be. Alright, let's double check this. Okay, there's connection here coming from well within range of Helena. Alright, that works. And then okay, we can't quite go all the way to Fort Smith. That telegraph station is going to need to be over here, kind of by this farm. Let's get him back up the river to Fort Smith. Do that. I had originally given him these 4 infantry brigades and some artillery, which have Napoleons, by the way. They're not 6-pound default guns. And since I got some decent cav weapons, I gave him some cav too. Brigade commanded by Lunsford Lomax, and under the divisional command of John Chambliss. 2 names from the historical Army of Northern Virginia, Stewart's Cavalry Corps. Speaking of Cavalry Corps, way back toward the beginning of the campaign, episode 3 or 4, don't remember when I did it, but when I was talking about my plans, I had talked about making some independent cavalry corps. Still haven't done it, primarily because the regular, I finished that impressment. I didn't pick another policy. Let's see. I don't think I want to do this diplomacy too now, since I got cav weapons. The other thing you get weapons-wise is Whitworth rifles, which are pretty good. I think they have a 600-yard range, but I've literally got more infantry small arms than I know what to do with, more than I will ever use. So that is not a huge priority. Letters of marque. Cuts Union Sea trade. Max trade war subsidies increase, and relations with Europe decrease. I'm not really pursuing European intervention, so that relations nerf, I think the Union is having some economic problems. So increasing those, somewhat attractive. Let's see if we... I know I don't want to print notes. Tarifact. That hurts relations. It should improve our domestic industry. So that's a possibility. I'm at BBB for credit rating. So I don't think I need to grab government funding. Especially since I don't have any plans for a huge expansion of the Army upcoming. I don't want to mess with either of these, kind of for the same reason. I've got 200,000 in uniform. I've got a manpower pool of 75,000. So I don't think I need the draft, and I don't think I need to offer bounties. Because either route will increase my manpower pool, but will decrease my soldiers' morale. So I'm going to stand pat on that for now. None of these down here are unlocked yet. Chapter 3 is, these are time gated. You don't get these until either late 1862 or early 1863, regardless. Restrict cotton. That's not really jumping out at me. I would need king cotton anyway. Now king cotton 2, I don't care about the cotton clad rams really. I don't really care that much about the increased relations. I do like the idea of improving the ag subsidies. Because usually when you run into supply problems with this game, it's not the ammo, it's not the uniforms, it's forage for the horses and provisions for the troops. And where does that come from? It comes from farms and plantations. Primarily farms, I would think. So boosting agriculture will result in more provisions in the supply depots. I think I'm going to go with that. The Union counterpart is breadbasket. And I usually like to go at least level 2 on those. I'm going to do that, which means I need to bump up my politics subsidy in order to unlock that slot, which we will do. Here we go. And that will take about a month, a little more than a month. Johnson's moving back up to Fort Smith to begin his little Missouri campaign. We have our Riverine Battle Squadron ready at Memphis. Let's send him up into the Ohio River. I'm kind of thinking at some point we're going to run into some Union Riverine forces in this theater. So we'll just move this Riverine Battle Squadron up there. And how are we doing on our seagoing battle squadron at Biloxi? Does he have the CSS Virginia ready? No, he doesn't. 97%. Still, well, it's there. It's not quite complete, but it's showing as actually present. So this force is just about ready to go. And we can begin our naval campaign. That won't take much longer. I'm going to let Virginia get up to 100%, but otherwise we're ready to unleash our naval attack down here in the Gulf of Mexico. Kind of excited to see how that works out. Not having played the Confederate States before, I haven't done something like that. Okay, Johnson's up here. He needs to build a telegraph, and we saw it needs to be right over here on this edge of his combat radius. Right about... Come on, give me a... I'm not getting a good build. This is 2. Nah, he's going to have to move over here a little bit, I think, to be inside the radius of the Little Rock station. This little symbol right here, I don't know exactly what that icon means. I think it means he's moving, but he is in defensive mode. That's what it means for a fleet. So I assume it means the same for an army. Okay, now let's see if it works. Maybe he has to be stationary in a destination, which he is now. Why can't I build the telegraph? I can't get a build spot for it. Maybe the road and this farm is messing with it. Well, let's come a little bit further down the road, I guess. Alright, just pick up a perk. We'll go flying column. How about the Army of Tennessee? Supply problems, predictable. Okay, Engineering Corps, you'll do it faster. Third perk slot open. Come up here. We'll build a supply depot right about here. Yeah, let's see what I was saying. Fine for ammo, because he's not using any. He's not fighting. But he's out of food and forage. So maybe King Cotton can help a little bit with that. Alright, let's get a supply depot going here. And of course he's got the engineer perk, flying column. We'll go pontoon train for the supply efficiency. No, I'm gonna go. Siege train. It's another idea that I had off camera. And the reason I'm right now, that does nothing for him. However, this corps, this engineering corps, is now with the Army of Tennessee, alongside Hardee's and Van Dorn's main fighting corps, which means he's going to get pulled into battles from time to time. So I don't want to develop him into a you know, a true field corps, not even a small one like Johnston's. But I am going to, since he is going to be on battlefields from time to time, my idea is I'm going to give him some artillery. And then if something does come along where there is some kind of field siege against another army or actually besieging a fort, he adds artillery firepower. And we'll have this perk active in that kind of situation. And I was thinking about maybe creating a similar little unit like this for the Army of Northern Virginia. to that end, let's see what we have in HQ in our troop pool. We do have some batteries that are ready for assignment. So let's transfer some to, turn the garrisons off, our engineering corps that I just skipped over. Because he's in the Army of Tennessee now, that's why. And with that one brigade, which is actually, you know, I recruited a small one, but he's up to 2,500 men. And I may, you know, I'll give him some, since we got plenty now, I'll give him some good rifle. We'll give him some Lorenzes. Why not? So basically it's another kind of additional artillery grand battery that comes with its own little infantry guard. And we'll get those transferred up. If I can get it to work right. There we go. Two or three? These are full. I mean, that's 32 more guns. Yeah, we'll do that. Meanwhile, there's some cav that's available for assignment. Do we have... let's give Van Dorn's corps a little bit more cav. We got it. This is Fitzhugh Lee. Ready to go somewhere and do some horse soldiering. Let's give him... yeah, we got one more Sharps carbine available for him. There you go. Okay, I had paused time because I realized I haven't really paid attention to the next step in Maryland yet. Okay, this supply depot is built. This supply depot with the general and his hammer banging away on where that's almost done. Aha, see, there you go. Now we know where McClellan is. He's moved up here into Pennsylvania. We wouldn't know that if it wasn't for our scouters and their little gunboats, schooners. Department of Pennsylvania here. Army of the Ohio and Winfield Scott's militia are here. We still don't know where the hell McDowell is. Well, if he wants to sit over here on the eastern shore in Maryland or Delaware for the rest of this war, that is fine with me. I'd like to know where he is, though. Let's let Lee finish this supply depot. And then we're going to move on Frederick. And let's go check out Johnston. Okay, can you build a telegraph now? Apparently not. And to be honest, I don't understand why. Well, I think No, I don't. I think it's because the Little Rock telegraph station is not connected. Johnston was connected when he was here, which enabled him to build it. Now he has moved away, and we don't have a connection line. Why we don't have a connection line, I have no idea. Well within range of both this station and the Batesville station. I don't get it. Does he, and he himself does not have the connected to telegraph. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe he himself has to be connected to telegraph in order to build, but he should be, again, because he is within range of the Little Rock station. I don't know. Maybe you can only go one skip away from the main trunk. I don't know, but I'm kind of burning time here on trying to figure that out. Let's check out. I feel like I've wasted time building the station down here. I don't understand why the Little Rock station is not connecting to the network. But Carrollton is just within range of the Batesville node, which is on the main trunk. And then from Carrollton, that should connect to this one here. I mean, it's kind of trial and error now. So I'm gonna move Johnston up to Carrollton. He needs to come up this way anyway. We'll put him about here and build supply depot and telegraph at that location if the game allows me to. I guess. How are we doing here? Still working on that supply depot. Readiness is actually dropped in the engineer. That's because I transferred the artillery to him. That's why his readiness is a little lower. Meanwhile, Hardy's doing okay on his supply, not 100%. And yeah, and Van Doren's condition is actually dropping. So we need to get the supply depot built and populated to get Van Doren's core back up to snuff before we do much else in Kentucky. And then we need to go attack Patterson again at Frederick. But that'll be in the next episode. We've been running about, I don't know, 45 or 50 minutes, something like that. And let's see. Yeah, we're still at 34 national morale for the Union, which I thought after losing Baltimore and that major loss in the Battle of Baltimore, I thought this would drop a little bit more, but it stayed the same. Here's all the cumulative contributors to national morale. So the Union has lost a total of 60, almost 61 points, about 13 of which has come through battle losses, 21 points from town occupation, 20 points from losing Washington, D.C., 7 points just from invasions. I guess you lose national morale just from having enemy forces in your territory, which makes sense. I didn't realize it was that big a contributor, though. And there is a linkage there. You know, they're getting 13 points, 13 and a half points from state support. So those two factors, support and morale, are separate, but they're not completely independent. They're linked, apparently. Although not very much in our case. We have huge national support, but we're not getting much of a morale modifier from that. Speaking of which, why are we down to 91 national support? We were at 100, and I'm not really aware of anything that has happened to affect that. Latest important changes. I don't see any negatives. Oh, maybe that was before I enacted the confiscation policy, because I felt like I could, that I had room for losing. That's what that was. That's what did that. Okay, that will do for this episode. Thank you very much for watching.